Howdy, this is Mackenzie Franklin from SideGame LLC here in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Today we're going to be organizing Earth, designed by Maxime Tardif, presented by Connor McGooey, and published by Inside Up Games. This is a fully expanded, fully sleeved copy of Earth with no lid lift that's organized to get gameplay started as soon as possible, as well as facilitate the game while it's being played. If you have any questions about what you see here, please let me know down in the comments below, and for links to everything that I talk about in this video, please take a look in the description of the video. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please make sure that you do. It is the best way to help us grow. And for those of you already subscribed, thank you so much for the continuous support. Let's get started organizing Earth. Let's lift off the lid here, and inside you'll see that we have our rulebook on top. Let's move that rulebook to the side, and you'll see that we have all of our player boards on top. All 5 player boards have the same front side, having areas where you're going to put your setup cards, your compost pile, your event cards, icon reference, and then your different actions that are available to you. But on the backs of these, you have a couple of different things. So first off, you have 2 that just feature some artwork. You've got some nice landscape pictures there. You've got 2 boards that are going to be used for the solo mode with this little flower icon in the center. So when you're playing solo, you'll need those. 2 separate boards there. And then lastly, you're going to have this board here, which is for team play. You've got a marker there to show who's on what team. We've got 2 more flat documents here with our achievement sheet. You can use this in order to track your progress on completing these mini objectives and conditions. And our last flat component here is the Fauna board. This is going to have 4 different scoring conditions that have first come, first serve victory points here. So you want to race to complete those, as well as 2 endgame scoring conditions. You can also play on the back side here, which is going to give you the same amount of points for completing these. So a little less competitive on racing towards those goals, and then no additional endgame scoring. So a little bit less complex overall. And that brings us to the main section of our box here. And as you can see, we've done some modification of the insert, just using a pair of scissors and trimming out some of these wells. So that being said, we are going to trim the small one away and leave the larger well in the center here to store all of your cards. You can see it there in the bottom, making sure that nothing is moving around. So when you slide it, that means you can store it vertically or horizontally, and everything is going to stay nice and snug where it's at. That is something to be aware of. You're going to want to trim that. That way you're keeping the small one out of the box and leaving that large well here just to keep those cards nice and protected. We'll go ahead and start with the cards down here and talk about the sleeves that we use for this game. We use the Gamegenic Standard American Matte board game sleeves. I love the way that these shuffle. They've got a great matte finish. These are just my favorite brand of standard American board game sleeves. That's the Gamegenic. I'll leave a link in the description below for these sleeves, as well as the exact card count you'll need. Moving to the cards themselves, they're going to be separating them into 2 different categories. One is going to go into your Earth deck, and these are all the cards with this Earth background. They've got a little leaf on the bottom here. You'll shuffle them up and then make your main draw pile here, and you're pretty much going to go through a good majority of these every time that you play the game, so it is good to shuffle them all up nice and evenly and make sure that you have these piles readily available for everybody, because the card draw rate in this game is crazy. So these are all Earth cards here. It goes pretty much like 3/4 of this row. The rest of the cards mostly feature double-sided cards, so they're easy to identify from the Earth deck. You've got your Fauna, which are going to give you those endgame goals, and as mentioned before, they are double-sided, so you've got lots of variability built in. Then you've got your ecosystem cards, which are also double-sided. These are going to give you extra scoring conditions. Players will get these, but you'll also be putting some in the center of the table. And then after that, you'll have your different climates. These are going to determine some starting effects that the players are going to get, also double-sided here. And the last set of cards going to the players are the island cards. These are going to give you some starting victory points and symbols, as well as your starting resources and another ability that you get to use in tandem with all of your other cards. And these are double-sided, so you've got a lot of choice at the start of this game. Next up, we have some of the promo cards. These are the Kickstarter calendar cards that give you some additional rules to add to your game, whether it be extra endgame victory points or maybe special abilities that are going to be happening during the game, like this ongoing effect here. So some just ways to add even more variability to this game. And they are also double-sided, so lots of different choices here with scoring or ongoing effects, lots to choose from. And of course, lastly, with that same flower symbol as before, these are the solo cards, only a small set of 6, so put those to the side unless you're playing with that solo mode. So those are all of our setup cards. Let's go ahead and slot them back into the bottom there. Moving on from the cards, let's move on to our 2 different types of storage containers. These large storage containers are called the organizers with a lid. We got them from the Dollar Tree here in the United States. I'll leave a link in the description below. Whenever you do make orders from the Dollar Tree, if you can't find them actually inside of the store, you can order them so that the store will pick them up, so they'll be there for you to grab. You can also order them in bulk, which is what I usually do, because I find that these organizers are pretty dang amazing for most games, and they even fit mini American style cards, so they work in games like Zombicide or other games like that with small decks of cards. So I think that these organizers are just great in general, and they work perfectly for this game, organizing all of our different pieces here. So those are the essentials organizers with lids. Both of our organizers with lids are exactly identical. I love doing this because you can put them in between different sets of players when you're playing at higher player counts, so everybody has something that they can easily grab all their resources from. And you'll be grabbing these resources a lot during the game. So you just lift off a single lid, place it down, and you've got your sprouts, your chunks, as well as your canopies ready to go. So go ahead and put those in between at least 2 players. Our second organizer here is exactly the same, so we'll move that to the side. And that brings us to our smaller containers here. These are 10 for $1 at the Dollar Tree. Once again, I'll leave a link in the description below. Same spiel as the organizer with lid. I really love the way that the lid pops off. You put it under and it becomes its own little dish. So in total, when you're setting up, you're going to be opening anywhere between 2 to 4 containers based on your player count. I love that you can just put these next to those organizers here, so everything is in one area. So those are all for the soil tokens. Once again, these 2 containers are going to be identical, just holding all of your different soil tokens. These are the upgraded ones. We'll talk about the non-upgraded versions in a second here. So these are identical here with our 2 different soil token containers. Next up, we've got a small plastic bag here with your every game components. Not only are you going to have all of those colored leaf tokens inside that you're going to give to each of the different players, 1 color per player, to mark what they're doing on their turn, as well as the different objectives that they're completing. But you're also going to have these 2 specific tiles, one that marks the first player, so there's an equal distribution of turns, and then the other, which is the active player token. You'll slot this on the top of your board to show what action is currently being done. So that's just a quick reminder here for the use of those 2 different tokens, as well as all those leaf tokens that you'll pass to the players. Underneath your every game components, you'll have your score pad here. This is your standard one, but we've also gone ahead and laminated one of the pages, and then we've included the writing utensils. That way you could do whichever one that you want to do at the time. You've got your pencil for your standard, or you can use this dry erase marker here if you want to use the laminated version, borrowed generously from Railroad Ink. And that brings us to our last section in here, all of our redundant components. Now, before we get into that, we do have a silica gel packet in here for freshness, as well as your Kickstarter goodies bag. This is actually going to have the rules for the calendar card promos, so you might want to keep that just in case. I do want to quickly talk about the redundant components, though. We've got soil, leaf, sprout, and your active player token that have all been replaced by these wooden component versions. Now, the reason that we've actually kept them inside of the box, though, is because the soil tokens have some ×5 and ×10 multipliers. We've never actually needed them in a game, but the rate at which you can generate stuff in this game can be pretty surprising, so I'm sure that there's going to be a point where we might need the 5s and the 10s. I'm curious to hear what your experience is with the amount of soil generation in the game, and if you've ever actually needed these tokens, and if we actually need to keep them in the box. But for right now, we are going to store them in that upper right corner because it does help with things shifting around, and you can still close that box without any lid lift. So that's all of our redundant components. And that's everything inside of our box for Earth. Let's go ahead and pack it up. Let's start off with our 2 organizers with lids. We'll put them in the upper left corner here, nice and flush. We'll slide our dry erase marker and our pencil inside of that area between the containers and the cards. We'll put our silica gel packet in that upper right corner, as well as all of our redundant components. We'll place our soil containers in this empty section here, and then place our score pad and laminated score pad on top of those redundant components. We'll place our every game components on top of the score pad, followed by our Fauna board, as well as our achievement sheet. We'll finish up by placing all of our player boards on top, followed by our rulebook. And that is organizing Earth. If you have any questions or comments about what you saw here, please let me know down in the comment section below. And for links to everything that I talked about, please take a look in the description. How do you organize your copy of Earth? What do you think of the game so far? Is this one of your new go-to engine builders? What do you think of the photography in the game, the art, the theme? I'd love to hear what you think. But thank you so much for watching. SideGame Strong.